He built a company that didn't just compete with the taxi industry. It tried to erase it entirely. With a single tap on a smartphone, Uber changed how millions of people moved around the world, and at the center of it all was Travis Kalanick, a founder obsessed with winning at any cost. But behind the explosive growth and billion-dollar valuations was a story filled with controversy, power struggles, and a sakotun that shocked Silicon Valley. Because in the end, the man who built Uber didn't get to lead it. He lost it. Travis Kalanick was born in 1976 in Los Angeles, into a middle-class family where curiosity and independence were encouraged from an early age. As a teenager, he showed a strong interest in computers and entrepreneurship, always looking for ways to build and experiment. He later enrolled at University of California, Los Angeles, to study computer engineering, but like many future tech disruptors, he quickly became more interested in building things in the real world than sitting in a classroom. He dropped out before graduating to focus entirely on startups, and that decision led him to his first major venture, Scour, a peer-to-peer file-sharing platform similar to Napster. At first, it looked promising, gaining traction quickly, but it also attracted massive legal pressure from the entertainment industry. The lawsuits were overwhelming, and eventually, Scour collapsed into bankruptcy. For most people, that would have been the end, but for Kalanick, it became a defining moment. He learned that the world doesn't reward playing safe. It rewards those willing to fight, even when the odds are stacked against them. Years later, in 2009, an idea sparked that would change everything. Together with Garrett Camp, Kalanick co-founded Uber, initially called UberCab. The concept was incredibly simple. Press a button on your phone, and a car shows up. But what made it revolutionary wasn't just the convenience. It was the challenge it posed to an entire global system. Taxi industries around the world were heavily regulated, slow to innovate, and often inefficient. Uber didn't ask for permission, it just launched. Starting as a premium black car service in San Francisco, Uber quickly expanded, introducing cheaper ride options and opening the platform to everyday drivers. It wasn't just a business model, it was a technological and cultural shift. Suddenly, anyone with a car could become part of a global transportation network. What followed was one of the fastest expansions in startup history. Under Kalanick's leadership, Uber entered city after city with unmatched aggression, often launching before regulators even had time to respond. Governments tried to shut it down, taxi unions protested in the streets, and lawsuits piled up, but Uber kept growing. Investors saw the potential and poured billions into the company, pushing its valuation to nearly $70 billion. Kalanick became known as one of the most relentless CEOs in Silicon Valley, driven by a philosophy that prioritized growth above everything else. Internally, this mindset was summed up in one idea: always be hustling. To him, every obstacle was just another barrier to break. And for a while it worked. Uber became a global powerhouse, operating in hundreds of cities and redefining urban transportation. But the same culture that fueled Uber's success also created its biggest problems. Inside the company, reports began to emerge about a toxic work environment, where pressure was constant and ethics were often ignored. Allegations of harassment, internal conflicts, and questionable business practices started to surface, damaging Uber's reputation. Externally, the company faced increasing backlash from regulators and the public, with critics accusing it of breaking laws and exploiting loopholes. Then came a turning point. A video of Kalanick arguing with an Uber driver went viral, showing a side of him that many had only heard about before. It wasn't just about one moment. It symbolized a deeper issue within the company's leadership. The narrative began to shift. Uber was no longer just a revolutionary startup. It was a company in crisis. By 2017, the pressure had reached a breaking point. Investors were worried, the board was losing confidence, and Uber's image was rapidly deteriorating. In a dramatic and highly publicized move, Travis Kalanick was forced to resign as CEO of Uber. It was a stunning shakotun, from one of the most powerful figures in tech to someone pushed out of his own creation. For years, he had been the driving force behind Uber's rise, the one making bold decisions and taking massive risks. But now, the very people who once supported him believed the company needed to move on without him. It was a moment that defined not just his career, but also the risks of unchecked ambition. After leaving Uber, Kalanick stepped away from the spotlight, but not from business. Instead of returning with the same loud, aggressive style, he took a quieter approach. He launched a new venture, Cloud Kitchens, focusing on ghost kitchens and the future of food delivery, a market that shares similarities with Uber's original model of logistics and scale. This time, however, things were different. There were fewer interviews, fewer public appearances, and a clear effort to avoid the controversies that once surrounded him. Some saw it as a reinvention, while others questioned whether he could ever fully rebuild his reputation. The story of Travis Kalanick is not just about building a billion-dollar company. It's about the cost of doing so without limits. He changed how the world moves, disrupted an entire industry, and proved that bold ideas can reshape reality. But his journey also shows the other side of success, the consequences of pushing too far, too fast for too long. In the end, he didn't just lose his position, he lost control of the empire he created. And that leaves one haunting question. In a world of innovation, where is the line between visionary leadership and destructive ambition?